Please welcome our next speaker, Chris Huntingford, a technical architect. Today, Chris will be presenting the Notorious Data Debate. Please stick around after his session for a live Q&A.
Hey everyone, welcome to DynamicsCon. Super excited to be here. Honestly, it's a real honor, and I'd like to thank the DynamicsCon team for having me. You know what? This is my first one. Like, I've done loads of events all across the world, and this is my first ever DynamicsCon, and I've heard loads of great things. So let's get cracking. So who am I? Who's this crazy South African person? Well, my name is Chris Huntingford. I'm the Global Power Apps lead at Avanade. I'm actually pretty new there. I used to work at Microsoft for a little while, doing a lot of Power Platform evangelism and stuff. And yeah, so here I am. And we're going to be talking about the notorious data discussion. Whoa. Let me tell you what, this has been around for a very, very long time. Now, some of you on this call obviously are Dynamics fans. And actually, it's going to be pretty good because some of you are from the M365 world or from the Azure world. And this thing that I'm going to talk about is for everyone, okay? It's not just for Dynamics people. So sit back. Hopefully you've got yourself a beer. It's COVID. You can pretty much do what you want. So whatever time it is, crack on. And let's talk about some tech, right? So I'm taking you a bet that most of you at some point have been to Ignite or Inspire and been ignited by Inspire and inspired by Ignite, at least. And you would have seen a slide like this pop up at some point in the sessions, right? So we've got some great leaders, and they talk about all these wonderful points about Power Platform. Now, one of the things that I discovered, and this started to irk me a little bit, and for those of you that don't know me, I like to cut to the point. So this is more Tarantino-esque than Michael Bay-esque. So if you're looking for Michael Bay, go read the Microsoft marketing material. If you're looking for the real story, this is where you're going to get it. So a lot of the time we keep on talking about apps, and you can see on the slide, it says 500 million new apps will be built in the next 5 years. All right, 500 million new apps. I mean, hopefully the session gets a good amount of people. If we all club together and build some apps, we'll have apps everywhere. And the next one says the demand for mobile apps is growing 5 times faster. 5 times faster than what? Well, okay, then IT departments can deliver. Well, it's way bigger than that. But again, it's apps. And if you look at the last point, it says 65% of app developments. You know, we keep on focusing on apps, and I can understand why, because people buy apps. But I want to change that a little bit, right? I don't want to talk about apps anymore. Now, yes, I agree. All these points are raised by Gartner and Forrester, and I'm not trying to break anything. I'd like to talk about solutions. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, there's a couple of other points on this page that are actually really important. And the first one is the number of organizations with more than 100 terabytes of unstructured data have doubled since 2016. What? 100 terabytes of unstructured data? Let me tell you, I remember getting on stage at a number of events all over the world. And one of them was at Future Decoded. And I remember somebody in a lovely dress standing on stage going, data is like digital gold. And I was like, awesome. Do you know we've told you for 5 years to collect data, and we've never told you what to do with it? Well, that's a problem. We're going to sort that out today. Leave it to me. So I got to be honest. You can see a little bit behind me over here. It says Maker in Lego. I'm a huge Lego nerd, like an uber Lego nerd. In fact, my Lego nerdism goes so deep that I actually started working in technology for the larger part because of Lego. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you have got kids. If some of you are super nerds like me, you play Lego on your own, and you have this awesome Lego box, and you scrounge around it and look for the piece that's like a 4x2, and then you go and attach it to your Lego pirate ship or fairy princess castle that you're building. Do you know that this exact view over here reminds me a lot of our current IT landscapes? You know, when I take a look at a lot of what my customers are doing and the partners that I've worked with are doing, it's actually quite similar. And guess what? Microsoft picked up on that. They thought, you know what? We're actually recognizing patterns in the way that people are working. And because we can recognize the patterns and the things people are doing, why not apply technology to it? So they did. And the landscape might look like this. You might want to replace some words like patients with contractors and, people with vehicles. Not that you would do that in real life. However, at Microsoft, they boxed them into what we call the 3 service areas. Now, you might sometimes hear people referring to the three clouds. That's nonsense. There are no three clouds. We have one cloud, right? We have various service areas underneath each cloud. Now you're thinking, what on earth has this got to do with data? I'm going to show you. So let me explain a little bit about these three service areas. The Azure service area is typically the foundation, right? Think about it as the core in which everything is built. M365 is the kind of top layer where you're giving personal productivity solutions as well as business solutions. And then business applications is kind of where all the core data processing sits around business tech, right? Now that's really cool, okay? So now that I've explained those to you and you're thoroughly going, well, okay, I'm still not getting this data discussion. Let me break your minds one step further. Microsoft's motto, right? Now, me working there, this was drummed into my head. Microsoft's mission in the world is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Let me say that again. Empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Oh, Chris, you're putting out fluffy Microsoft marketing material. You said this was going to be the Tarantino session. Fret not, my friends. Let me show you. Considering this is DynamicsCon, and the first thing I loved about this event was the fact that it reminded me of a comic book event, right? I mean, I looked at all the slides and I was like, these are super cool. So I decided to take a quote out of one of my favorite movies. And my favorite movies is the most recent Avengers film. Now, yes, we can all shed a tear, right? And as Tony Stark left the bunker after getting the PIM particle, he met his father. And Tony Stark said, no amount of money ever bought a second of time. Now, if you think about what Microsoft's messaging around empowering every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more is, the only way you can physically achieve more is if we give you time back. Now, you can be as rich as you want. You can have millions. You can be the most amazing organization in the world. But if you spend your time doing irrelevant things, then it's pointless. Then your money is useless. So this is why the Power Platform exists. And this is a slide you will have seen 1,000 times across this event. And I'm really glad you have. And what's amazing is that a lot of the speakers in this event are going to focus quite a lot on what we call the interaction layer. So that's your top layer with things like Power BI, the great mechanism to analyze data. Power Apps, this amazing mechanism to interact with and get data. Power Automate, this amazing mechanism to automate tasks and create processes. And then Power Virtual Agent, which I still think they should have called Power Bots, right, is effectively the mechanism to converse with other types of people and give them access to data. A lot of the time we miss out on the actual true point, which is the data layer underneath, okay? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. The data layer underneath is the only thing that makes those four components relevant. And I will take you through why. Now, with this concept of the Power Platform, my goal is to build stuff really fast. My goal is to make sure that I can get my time back. I don't want to spend 16 hours building an app, okay? You know what's weird? I used to work for a company called Borland who wrote a product called Delphi 5. And believe it or not, I used to be a developer. I'm better now. But when I was writing code, it was pretty interesting because what happened was I used to spend hours and hours building out forms, and I hated UX design. In fact, to quote the movie Fight Club, and if you've ever read the book, right, it's actually Microsoft in the meeting with them talking about user experience in the book Fight Club. And the guy's like, hey, man, can I get the icon in cornflower blue? I don't care about that. I don't care about icons in cornflower blue. If you're a UX person, I salute you, right? That's not my thing. What I care about is what you do with data. Now, in saying that, in the ability to save time, the better my data, the better your app. The better your app, the better my data. Now, off the top of that, I do want to say that I do make a lot of solutions and build a lot of apps. I'm a proud maker, right? As I said, you can see behind me. This is the stuff that I love to do. I love to build things, right? Now, I also know there are millions of other people in this world that love to build things. They need opportunity to be able to create things on top of that data and make their lives a lot easier and save them that time. So I'm going to take you through a slide that a lot of people laugh about, but it's quite important. And many moons ago, James Phillips, when we started on this journey, he put out a slide called the digital feedback loop. Wait, I've got to do that in movie voice. The digital feedback loop. And effectively what the slide was it was a mechanism to show you that data was fed in from all these different parts of the organizations and created this thing called a data journey. And the data journey was effectively the way in which data was shared. Now, I'm not gonna bore you through that. What I'm gonna talk about is the layers in that data journey. Data is the foundational point of anything we do here in the Power Platform. In fact, Dynamics folks, Dynamics 365 customer engagement. You may not like this, but Dynamics 365 customer engagement is a Power App, right? It uses those core elements of data. It is so important that we have data. And I'm going to give you some examples. Azure is the thing that lives on top. It's the foundational layer. If I get philosophical, trees with deep roots don't blow over, buildings with strong foundations don't fall down. We can carry on with these hilarious analogies. I can make up more. But the concept is Azure provides the foundation for everything we do in the Power Platform and in business applications. What's great about that is that Azure has had so much investment from Microsoft. Thousands and millions and billions of dollars have been invested in Azure to make sure that the things we do are looked after. The platform layer, is the layer that lives on top of Azure. Power Platform, Application Platform as a Service, APaaS, right? It's that weird thing that lives between software as a service and platform as a service. It's kind of like the Lego bricks, right? So think of it in the fact that when you're scrounging around your pre-built, your Lego set, Lego pre-built those bricks for you. You didn't make them yourself, right? You can, wouldn't be Lego, but they gave you the tools to build out your solutions and build out your awesome fairy princess castle or, awesome pirate ship. We've given you that in the Power Platform. We supplied you with those digital bricks that live on top of Azure, which lives on top of data. Dynamics 365 lives on top of the Power Platform. Customer engagement is made up of the same digital bricks that the Power Platform provides as model-driven apps and Canvas apps are. As I said, Dynamics 365 customer engagement is a Power App. The modules are Power Apps, right? Finance and operations, Business Central, very different things. They're not essentially living on the same platform, but they use Power Platform to be extended. So replacing things like X++ in finance and operations is a great use of Power Platform. Don't create that technical debt. Use low-code, no-code supported tools. Anyway, our diverse. Let's start thinking about actual examples of where this is relevant and why. So one of the key ones I want to bring to your attention is let's take a look at something like Power BI. Yeah, we all know Power BI. Pretty sure you do. Have you ever seen a Power BI report without data? I can tell you right now, I've seen a number of them, and I really want to show you this because it's actually quite cool. Check this out. Wow. He's my sad little spaceman. Look at that. Power BI without data. I'm wondering if that has any relevance to any of you on this call. I mean, for me, it has nothing. This doesn't help me. So what we do is we take data and we supercharge elements of the Power Platform to make them relevant. Okay. So those tools that the Power Platform gives you need data. It's like putting fuel in a car. Okay. It's like putting beer in me. It's really important. So just think about it, right? Think about being able to take those amazing tools, supercharging them with data, and then applying them to an organization. Wow, it's just incredible. I mean, let's give another example. A Canvas app. This is a Canvas app, right? This is a Canvas app without data. Now, there is a weird story behind this, and I will explain it as I go. But think about it like this. An application without data is effectively a user manual or a bunch of empty fields. So let's take a look, right? Look at that. That's the Canvas app with data, something that makes sense. Now, I have this game, right, where when I build out solutions, I always have to throw in random things. And actually, this was a challenge by my friend Donna Saka. And she said to me, I bet you can't build a full UFO sighting solution in 45 minutes, which included Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and I think it was Microsoft Forms at the time, which is now Customer Voice. And yeah, I did it. I did it in 45 minutes, and I've got the recording. You'll have to go and find that somewhere. But what's epic is that the speed in which you can create these solutions is unbelievable, right? It is absolutely unbelievable. The time to value is so key here. Now, that's what happens with data. I want to take you along a little bit of a road, maybe a history lesson, if you will. Those of you that are interested in history may find this funny. Those of you that know me and know my past will find it even funnier. and I will elaborate. So many moons ago, many moons ago, there was a thing called the Great Data Wars. Going back like 2010, 2011. Some of you may remember when SharePoint started rearing itself up. Some of you may remember when Dynamics 365, previously known as CRM, version 2011 came out. Uber nerd mode right now, right? When they started giving us dashboards and, many-to-many relationships. Man, if I black out, I'm sorry. It's because I went into nerd mode again. And the Great Data Wars, there were arguments amongst businesses about where to put data. And Mary in account said data needed to go into a SharePoint list, and Jeff in sales said data needed to go into XRM or any kind of relationship. No, that didn't really happen. It was a bunch of nerdy IT people like me going, that's a good place for data, or that's a good place for data. And those data wars have never ended. On the internet right now, we still have these fights about where data should be put. I can tell you, I'm super honest. I've had many Twitter wars with people about where to put data. And you know what? It still irks me so much. And in the current landscape that we're at, it's just a battle. You get the SharePointers of the world wielding their list spears saying, SharePoint is the right place for data. And then you get the Dataverse, or whatever we're calling it this week, Common Data Open Flexi Service Verse or whatever. And we're going, we should put our data in here. And then SQL is kind of just chilling back going, yeah, you know what? I'm the back end to everything anyway, so you can just choose to put your data in here. And then poor old Excel, people still think Excel's a database. Go and speak to the NHS about that after they lost something like, I don't know, a few 100,000 records because they didn't manage their data properly. Anyway, I diverse. So this whole concept of data gets brought to the front, honestly, constantly, because people think that they are right every time. Well, I was one of those people. I remember having a fight with somebody about data being put in a SharePoint list. I still don't necessarily agree with the concept. However, I've had my mind changed. I've had my head turned, if you will. And the reason I say that is because I spoke to this dude, a very good friend of mine named Paul Cummins. So he is an Australian. I'm a South African. He's a sports fan. I'm a sports fan. We both like beer. We both like heavy metal, and we both like talking and arguing about data. So we created this random show after a fight on a Zoom call one night. It was awesome. And I was saying, hey man, you know what? Like, you guys are so wrong. SharePoint is a horrible thing to put data in. And he was going, no man, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, you're wrong. And then this fight on Twitter got even worse, and everyone was wrong, and I thought I was right, and everyone thought they were right. And anyway, it was quite interesting because after this whole battle of words, we made friends. And Paul and I are pretty good mates now. We chat quite a bit. We share some interesting stories, and we've got this podcast that we do. Well, it's not really a podcast. Look, you've got to be super geeky to watch this. Like, we talk about data for hours. It's so nerdy. And what we found was that you on the call, me, we architect solutions using technology we understand, but often let the budget stand in the way of what we do. Okay, what does that mean? Well, we build stuff and we want to build it the cheapest way. But, we want to use the technology that's right, but what if we don't have the capability and capacity to learn any of that technology? What happens if we've been brought up in the world of Microsoft 365 and all we know is SharePoint? What if we've been brought up in the world of Dynamics and all we know is Dataverse or XRM or CDS? What if that's all we know? What if we are super nerds and we've been using SQL all our lives and we don't understand the concept of like automatic many-to-many relationships? So we'll build it in what we know. We know how to cost it. We know it's going to take us 10 days in a SharePoint list. We know it's going to take us 2 weeks in Common Data Service or Dataverse. We know it's going to take us 6 weeks in SQL. We just know that stuff. So we do it and we cost on it because we know it. Okay. It doesn't mean it's right. Right. And let me tell you why. This is probably my favorite slide in the entire world. Now, you're thinking it's going to have lots of colors, and it's really not that exciting, I promise you. So now's the time, though, to get off Candy Crush. If you're on Tinder, you've got to stop that because this is the part you need to listen to. So what we typically do is we create diagrams like this. And what you're expecting from the session is me to list off a bunch of technical pieces and say, we're going to compare these. Look at how junk the delegation is in SharePoint. Look at how expensive Dataverse is. Oh, wow. It takes people so long to data model in SQL. On-premises sucks. Why on earth did they build Dataverse for Teams? You're expecting that. You're expecting something like this to show up and me to give you comparisons between the technical elements of each data storage facility. Notice I didn't say data source because these are not data sources. They are data storage facilities, and I'll tell you why. A data source is something that holds data. These don't just hold data. They serve data back up to you, and they have tools around them that allow you to do some amazing things, right? Think about what SharePoint has in the background. Sure, it has lists of things with stuff in them. But what does it do? It has security. It has all sorts of wonderful things around it. My favorite one, Dataverse. Dataverse has got 7 layers of security, my friends, that can be applied to data. 7 layers of security. I can obfuscate data down to the field level inside Dataverse. You can't do that in a SharePoint list, but I can buy tools to help me do that. But then, licensing and all that, which I'll get to. Things like SQL. Oh my gosh, the backup and restore and the ITSM around SQL is unbelievable. I hate to break it to you. The back end of SharePoint, Dataverse and Dataverse for Teams is SQL, right? You're using it anyway, folks. Azure people out there, you're thinking that, I don't want to give up SQL. Everything is built on SQL, my friends. It's just how it is, right? So I'm going to break this down for you real quick. You can keep this slide. You can compare as much as you want, right? Compare data sources until you're blue in the face. I'm going to do something different. Remember I was talking to you about solutions earlier, and I said to you, I don't want to talk apps. I want to talk solutions. And you were like, well, what point does that have? Well, solutions are a consolidation of things that create something that somebody can use. All right, well, a solution is a collection of apps and flows and whatever you'd like, data storage and whatever. But when I look at the types of solutions out there, there are a number of different types and they work across a business. So I'm going to put this onto a complexity ratio, right? And we're going to take a look at the typical things we see. Now, let me just explain something very quickly. I am aware that I am bundling this into 5 categories. I am very aware that life is not that simple, okay? I'm not a black and white kind of person, but I need a way to explain this to you. So here it is. When you're working with an organization, the typical types of solutions you see a lot are personal or team productivity. I'm going to build myself a spreadsheet to do something. I'm going to build myself an Access database to do something. I'm going to write myself this to do that. Personal or team productivity. It is for me or my direct colleagues. Yeah. Next one is simple use cases. Well, the solution might not be tiny, but the business case might be quite small. So it's a simple business case, right? Not something massive, something that can be contained. The third type is what I call complex process management and data structures. You're out of the world now of being able to just build a little app on an Excel document. You're now living in a world where you actually need to understand process management and have data behind the actual solution itself, or data behind the application. The next one is the mission critical applications or solutions. Hugely important. Mission critical solutions, if these break, your business breaks and it loses money. I want you to do some math over here and think, if you were going to build a mission critical solution on an Excel document and that document got deleted, that's your fault. You didn't think about where you were building it. Maybe it's down to education, maybe it's down to ignorance. We don't know. That's why you have people like us helping you. And then finally, things like organization-wide initiatives. This is incredible because these types of initiatives may not be business critical, but they matter to people. Things like feedback applications, giving people feedback across the entire organization, absolutely incredible. However, they may not be critical, but they matter. They're important and they're big. They're big solutions with loads of users. So let's think about this. Most citizen developer scenarios, when an IT department allows business people to build solutions, they do it in this type of scenario here. Personal productivity or simple business cases. When it comes down to solutions built with an industry flavor or line of business type approach, that's when you need to get a partner in, or the IT team or a contractor or somebody that really understands data structures and security, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in most organizations, you would think that the solutions are done mainly by IT. You're wrong. Most solutions in an organization are built by citizen developers, whether they're an Excel solution with a spreadsheet, or whether it's an Access database or even a Power app, right? You have to be brave enough to let your citizen developers build these things. They're going to do it anyway. The concept here is better a governed free market you know than a black market you don't know. Let me say that again. Better a governed free market you know than a black market you don't know. You let your citizen developers go and build stuff, and you have the digital guide rails up in IT to manage that data. Who cares how many apps they build? If they don't have the right security, they'll never get to that data. It's that simple, right? No Power app ever magically gave you access to data. You, my friends, are in control of the data. If the data is secure and people can't get to it, the app is the app. It's just a byproduct of that data, right? The line of business solutions are the big ones, the tough ones, the ones that have all that real core structure behind them. That's not a citizen developer's job. They do not want to be controlling data structures. They don't want to build data models and security models. No, let them build the apps. They're good at it. They understand process. They're the subject matter experts of their domain. IT, you're not. You're super good at tech. They're not. What we do in the Power Platform is we are Tinder for business and IT. We bring them together in a sweet, loving relationship. But we make sure that the data is kept safe, and we make sure that the citizen developers are enabled. Now, let's think a little bit about this. Remember that slide I showed you earlier, the comparative slide, and I told you we can't compare. Well, it was a little bit of a lie because you kind of can, right? So there are loads of different scenarios where different data storage facilities will work for different solutions. So personal productivity and simple business cases are brilliant inside Excel and, never repeat that, inside SharePoint and Dataverse for Teams. You can do some amazing things. When you start looking at these mission critical use cases, most of the time they're built on top of core, reliable, solid data structures like Dataverse or SQL. Now, I'm not saying SharePoint and Dataverse for Teams are not reliable. I'm saying that the use case is different. The cost is also different. Let me give you an example. If you use Dataverse, which is X amount of money per month, and you build a 5-user system, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is it worth paying that amount of money? If you build a mission critical system on top of SharePoint and you have delegation issues and your app breaks, that's because SharePoint is not built for that. It's not a relational data storage facility, right? It's really great for, light use cases. And you can do lots of data. Nobody's saying you can't store lots of data, but high amounts of relational data are not a good idea in SharePoint. That's what Dataverse is for, okay? So let's take a look at this. Now, this is one of my favorite things. I say that you can't just technically define your solution based on a data source. You can't. It's not possible. You can't just be like, I've got SharePoint. Everything I will do is going to be built on SharePoint. It has to be use case driven every time. So what I did was Paul and I had originally discussed this, and normally we do this presentation, together. And so Paul, this one's for you, buddy. And we decided on a couple of use cases. Well, I did, and I was like, hey, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, that'll work. Or no, that's crap. So there were 4. And we decided to actually list the use cases and show you how we chose the data storage facilities. Notice I didn't say facility. I'm pluralizing. Let's take a look. First one is on the mood, time and expense capture. Now, yes, I'm well aware that I'm not able to cover every point. So data snobs out there, or what do you call them? Scope snobs. Chill your beans, my friends. I know it's never this simple. I'm giving examples. You want to get into the weeds, call me up, we'll chat. Right, so good one. On the move, time and expense capture. It's an organization-wide initiative. So what I want you to do is remember this slide here, organization-wide initiative, right? And I've done this on purpose because this is one of the use cases that is what you call an outlying use case, right? So organization-wide initiative, let's have a look. Large amounts of data, receipt management, somewhat relational, queries may not be massive. Okay. It's going to be a Canvas app that people are going to be using. So they're going to be capturing data via their mobile devices, tick, 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 off we go. And the complexity is medium. So we spoke about it and we thought, you know what? We think that it's going to be a mixture of SharePoint for the unstructured data and SQL for the structured data. The reason why is because we will need to be querying the SQL database, right, every now and then, but we also know that we need to be able to store things like receipts, okay? The problem that we had, though, was that the relational structure was pretty important. We weren't just capturing flat lists. We were going to have a proper relational structure with other records. Dataverse, well, it would have worked, but it might have been too expensive for me based on the amount of data that I needed to capture. If I've got 25,000 employees capturing timesheets every week, and those timesheets have multiple lines, it's a lot of data. Dataverse can handle it, but you'll probably pay a bit more than you think. The next one is the Kudos app. Team-wide initiative. So it's my team, right? I've got a Kudos team, or I've got a team at work. We pat each other on the back, we high five, we buy each other beers or wines or champagnes or whatever we're drinking this week. And it's really basically not that massively complex. I can, stick the data in a list and make people aware of it. So it's not highly relational. Fantastic. Data will grow over time, but it's not huge. It's not going to grow immediately. And I'm typically going to be using a Canvas app as well because I need a really cool user experience, right? So let's see. We decided that SharePoint, again, would be a great option for this because SharePoint has got a fantastic mechanism of managing very low relational data structures. You can put a fair amount of data in it. There are limits and stuff can break depending on the amounts of data, which is why we also put in Dataverse for Teams, because we thought that Dataverse for Teams would be a great option to build the solution out and actually manage it directly within Teams where everyone works, yeah, but also you have the ability to have quite, strong relationships between the data elements. The fourth use case, and this one was quite tough, and I'm putting the slide up. The reason I'm doing that is because Paul and I had a discussion around health and safety. I don't know if you guys know, but obviously it's mission critical. You screw up a health and safety case and you've got some problems. You've got some big problems. In fact, you lose in health and safety documentation, you've got even bigger problems, my friend, right? You need that document management functionality. You need knowledge base. You need to have it highly relational. So with like health and safety solutions, it's not just logging a record. You're logging records according to assets and sites and buildings and this and that. And you need to have auditing against those records, and you need to have data security. So immediately SharePoint was put out of the equation, right? Now you're saying, oh, but SharePoint's got security? Not to this level. No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. SharePoint's great, but it's not as good as Common Data Service or Dataverse, at least, to manage that data structure. So we decided also the app we needed for this was not a Canvas app. End user of logging health and safety cases, oh no, Jim slipped on some paint. No, you wouldn't do that, right? But that was really key. But we also needed to have the process-driven user experience in the middle end as a mid-office application for people to use. And that only worked with model-driven apps. Model-driven apps only work with Dataverse. So, final point. This one is a biggie. In the UK, we've got a thing called antisocial behavior. In fact, it's all over the world. I don't know what everyone brands it as. I mean, it's like, people just being painful and causing trouble. In the UK, I'm going to use a terrible example here, and I'm sorry, but it does stick and it is real. Domestic abuse in the UK has gone up 50%. People log antisocial behavior cases with the police and housing associations and local government organizations. Do some math. Would you be okay with that data living in Excel? No, I wouldn't. I couldn't obfuscate the data or secure it. Also, somebody might delete the data sheet. Would you be okay with that data living in SharePoint? To an extent. I'm still not happy with the security and the compliance. Would you be okay with that data living in SQL? Yes, I would. I would be very okay with it. However, I need the strong security tiers and I need the auditability. Would you okay with that? Be okay with that data living in Dataverse for Teams? Similarly, yes, I would. But I'm not happy with the fact that I need a model-driven app on top of it, as well as the auditability and security, which you do get to an extent, but not as much as you get with Dataverse. If you screw up antisocial behavior cases, okay, they print out court reports every month or every time there's a case. Those court reports get sent to the court. A lot of the time, they ask for CRUD information, create, read, update, delete information against every case. So if Maureen from accounts has accessed that record, they need to know. Also, you need to be able to obfuscate that data so that people's identities are protected. GDPR and all that, this goes way deeper. Are you prepared to be audited with that type of data in your data storage facility? Ask yourself that question. Okay, just ask it to yourself. So a couple of things I want to bring to your attention is costs. Now, everyone laughs at me when I do this because they're like, hey man, dude, you're like literally going to hit the the worst possible thing in the Dynamics and Power Platform with licensing. I find licensing the easiest topic to talk about because it's actually dead simple, especially in Power Platform. There's nothing complex about licensing. What's complex is the way you put the different pieces of the platform together and cost them out. The licensing is very clear. Things like multiplexing are not clear. Okay. I'm not going to touch on that today. I can do a 2-hour session on that for you if you want. So let me explain. With the Power Apps licensing, when we were talking about leveraging what I call non-premium connectors, so tools like SharePoint and Dataverse for Teams, you can have an Office license, and those are not going to cost you any more money. You can build all your solutions on top of those, and they will not cost you any more money. Okay? Fair. So you can get that tech and build out a mission-critical solution on a SharePoint list. It'll probably work, but I don't know for how long. You need to start investing in the actual platform itself and looking at things like the Power Apps premium licenses, which give you access to business productivity. Office licensing is personal productivity. Premium licensing is business productivity. So when I say business productivity, I mean in the fact that I can connect to business-related data storage facilities, Salesforce, Dynamics, which is built with the same bricks as Power Platform, so it is on Dataverse, finance and operations, Business Central. All of those are premium connectors. It's going to cost you extra money. I'll tell you why. I want you to think about layers of scale of value. You might spend 20 days building out a solution on a SharePoint list and building out 1 million lines in Canvas app code, okay? Or you might be able to build the same solution in 5 days using a premium connector. Time is not equivalent to value every time. I'm going to say that again. Time cannot be equivalent to value every time, okay? This session might not be valuable to you at all. Therefore, I've wasted your time. It might be massively valuable to you. Therefore, you've gotten something out of it, right? Time is not always equated to value. Think about that and think about the cost of the license. One thing that I love, it's one of my favorite quotes, and it says, the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of a low price is forgotten. Let me show you something. Look at this. I got this tattoo years ago. Okay, years. I've had 9 artists work on it. 9 people. I don't like it. I actually hate it. I got this tattoo. This has been done once. It's epic. I love it. Absolutely love it. 1 artist worked on it. I paid a ton of cash to get this one done. This was peanuts. Some of this is printer ink, believe it or not. And I'm peeved. But that is a classic example of not getting value and having to pay over and over again for something that I now still don't like and I can't get rid of. It's legacy, man. This is a legacy tattoo. Okay. This is business critical access right now. Okay. It's stuck. So when you look at this whole process again around the way that these sort of solutions work, I want to tell you something. In no world can a solution that is mission critical cost the same as a solution that is not mission critical. It can't. The reason for that is because the technology that it is built on is far more robust. You can do it the other way. You can build a solution that is personal team productivity on top of these high value, high scalable relational data storage facilities. But that's like buying a Ferrari and driving it 2 meters down the road every day. Sure, man, you'll be super popular. Like all the ladies and all the dudes will be like, oh my gosh, look at this cool Ferrari or her Ferrari. That's so kick ass. But yeah, you've driven it 2 meters. Congratulations. Let me tell you, use the right tech for the right problem. Okay. Identify the problem, figure out where it fits, and use the right technology. And often that comes down to data storage every time. That's what you pay for. It's really key. When you go park in a parking lot, what do you pay for? You pay space for your car to park there for a certain amount of time. It's exactly the same thing here. You got to pay the piper for the space you use from a data perspective. It's really simple. It's consumption. The last thing that I want to point out is that it's not always one. It can't always be one. In fact, in no proper IT team from a data perspective is there always one data store. We have to look at the hybrid approach. We have to start thinking about working together and allowing organizations the ability to build the types of solutions they want on top of the data storage facilities they want, but at the same time, being okay with growing those solutions up or breaking those solutions down depending on utilization and consumption. Data is digital gold, my friends. Treat it with respect. please, the last thing I want to leave you with is the saying from Ryan Jones. Ryan Jones heads up Dataverse in Microsoft, and he's one of my favorite human beings. The guy is just massively smart and incredibly intelligent from every perspective. And he said to me one day, never be afraid to challenge, because it is you who will lead the transformation of an organization. You put that data and you mistreat it, you put it in the wrong place, they're going to come a knocking on your door, my friends. So do some reading, get studied up, okay? And don't be afraid to choose something that people don't necessarily like. If you can prove the value, you're there, right? It's really, really straightforward. So I'd like to thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. DynamicsCon team, I know you put a lot of work into this. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to watching all the other presentations, and I really hope everyone got something out of this. And like I said to you before, time does not equal value every time. It can't. It's just not possible, right? I love the quote from Tony Stark, no amount of money ever bought you a second of time. Rather start investing in things that are going to fulfill you and fulfill you fast than take ages and not give you any value. So we're at the end of the presentation. I really hope you guys got something out of this. I would love to take questions. Please be honest. Feel free to give me criticism. I'm more than happy with it. And also, I would love to take stuff offline if you really need to. So please, let's go ahead, ask some questions, and enjoy the rest of the session. See you all soon.
Okay, Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yo, hey, I'm Chris. I'm wearing different clothes now. Hopefully that's a good thing. Because I did promise it, so let's just do it. All right. So we'll be doing the rest of the session like this, right?
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for being a part of Chris's session. Thank you very much for actually joining and asking questions if you have. Right now, please put any questions that you have for Chris in the chat, and I'll be happy to ask him. And hopefully we can get some intelligent answers from the unicorn of Chris.
It's weird that you use the word intelligence and Chris in the same sentence. I'm really not used to it at all.
Okay, so I do have one question from I think you pronounce it Ina, who likes your approach to the data. She wants to know how you can ensure that decision makers know all the tools and are able to select the right one.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I've got a theory on this, right? I think you're going to have a combination of people, process, and technology with the concept of decision makers. So one of the things that I found is that I would sort of start growing people in the concept of building solutions by leveraging some of the not smaller data structures, but less hefty ones. And then, run those through a process of picking and saying, okay, this is actually going to be fine on SharePoint. It goes through our governance process really well. Or, whoa, hold the phone. This has got propensity for growth massively. Let's take that through a much more sort of scrutinizing process and move it, okay, or lock down the number of people, so all people using it. But don't think for a second that it's just going to be one person choosing, right? See it as like this whole process of selection. It also depends on who you're talking to, right? So like if you're selling the Power Platform to a customer, okay, you just have to educate. And I always say it's never more than one data storage facility. There's always more than one, right? But you need to show kind of what will work best and why for their situation. If it's internal, then you go through that governance process.
Okay. We've got a follow-up one. How do you keep up with everything that's released every day within the Microsoft ecosystem?
So I've got a couple of things there. I'm gonna stick a link in the chat just so everyone to have this. But there is the roadmap site, okay, and the roadmap site's good, but often it's a little bit too how do I frame it? Texty. Is that the right way? It's very point and shoot. So what I like to look for is my favorite people on Twitter. So a lot of the power addicts, and I'll stick that in the chat now. It's hashtag power addicts. If you follow people like Daniel Christian, John Levesque, Trisha, there's loads of people, Keith Watling, everyone's sharing stuff that they're passionate about. And I find that that's the best way for me to learn. And also by getting my fingers dirty. So what I mean by that is actually building stuff and stumbling across things in the platform that are on private preview or public preview, all depending. But yeah, for me, social media, the learn sites, and getting my hands dirty, that's my favorite way of doing things.
And then the last question that we actually have that pertains to the session itself, how not to overwhelm the clients with all the options.
Yeah, so you need to have an internal process. So this is, I'm assuming, I'm thinking you're probably a partner selling to a customer. Have a selection process internally, right? So you need to do your research on what works best and why, and also understand the customer's actual requirements, right? Not like, hey, Chris, I want to stick this stuff on a list, and Microsoft's told me about Canvas apps and they're kick-ass, and we want to build 700 of them. I do education sessions with customers, so I would rather sit them down, have a discussion. I don't often show them everything in the platform. I mean, I'll talk about your interaction layer, which is Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and PBA, which still should have been called Power Bots. But I don't often say to them, hey, this goes there and this goes there, only at a later stage. So yeah, it's a great question. So do your education internally, figure out a way to pitch the platform that's not as, how do you say, techie. Don't show them all the Lego bricks. The one thing that I found that works pretty well, okay, think about it like this. Look behind me, right? I've got my little maker symbol. I promise it says maker, okay? Imagine you buy a box of Lego and you can see on the front, it's supposed to be a fairy princess castle. And you're like, sweet, fairy princess castle. And you know that that's what you're going to build. A lot of the time with the Power Platform, you don't know what you're going to build unless you've gone through like an ideation phase. So tipping the big box of random Lego bricks out in front of somebody overwhelms them very quickly. So great question, but yeah, I've got my own ways of doing it. There's loads of people you can follow that'll help you do that as well. So yeah, that's probably my core response to that.
Now, Chris, like a lot of people are absolute fans of yours. Like they've joined the Chris Nicorn fan club. And so we do have some questions which are actually more related to the softer side of you. One of these questions is peanut butter, smooth or crunchy?
I'm a child of divorce. I could never choose, so don't make me choose again.
Okay. And then also, Nick probably wants to take you out because he's asking, what is your favorite kind of beer?
So I'm happy to be judged here openly, but I'm a lager person. In my South African youth, I spent a lot of time in parks and on pavements drinking cheap lager. That's never changed. Yeah. So I remember somebody once gave me an IPA and I kind of started getting weirded out because it was really nice and expensive. And, my simple palate didn't allow for it.
So you heard it here first, guys. When taking Nick out, simple does good.
That's it. I do have one last tip for you guys. So I'm going to drop in a wad of presentations that I'd worked on that are on LinkedIn Smart Links. It's collated slides from a number of places and absolute legends like Kim Dupois, Carsten Growth. But yeah, I'm going to drop it in the chat. You do need to have a LinkedIn account to get to it, but feel free because there's some licensing information there that'll help you out as well. So yeah, don't be afraid of numbers and don't be afraid of that type of thing. Okay.
Two last softer side of Chris questions, and then I think we can basically wrap it up with licensing questions just to take you home. So Mikkel wants to know if you can actually play one of the guitars in the background before you go. I think I'll answer this question.
Really?
No.
Well, it might be.
I think what he'll do is he will do this on his YouTube channel, which he does have. So please feel free to actually go. He does talk a lot about licensing and the Power Platform on his YouTube channel, and I'm sure he'll love to play the guitar on that channel too. Won't you, Chris?
Hell yeah.
Okay, great. And then last question. Chris, you nailed it, but is that a Gibson or an Epiphone?
It's an Epiphone. I'm waiting for the judgment as well.
No one is judging you. They're all fans. But is there anything that you want to actually, say?
Yeah. So number one, don't get cheap junk tattoos like that one, right? Get real ones because these are awesome. Number two, just remember, you can take this Power Platform journey as fast as you want. As far and as fast as you want. So don't feel don't feel like you have to use certain things. I mean, everyone's going to have an opinion. Formulate your own opinion and stick by it, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is a big thanks to all of you that were in the chat asking questions and just getting involved. Please just reach out on whatever social media profile, Carrier Pigeon, Giant War Machine, Walrus, whatever works for you. I'm happy to chat all the time. And Trisha, I'd love to say a massive thank you to you. You're always such a big help and my handler in these type of situations. So thank you for keeping me in line. I haven't sworn, which is pretty good. And DynamicsCon, you'll rock, well put together. And thank you very, very much for having me. I really appreciate it.